What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Giggle podcast. As always, this is your host, Ashish, aka ShiShi, aka the Fruit of Tulum. My guest today is none other than Nik Cherwink. Nik is a powerful, powerful guy. He started his career in the music industry, managing a bunch of different artists, many of whom went on to have really good, successful careers. And then he transitioned and was an industry advisor at Icon Collective, which is widely considered one of the most competitive and best schools for electronic music production based out of LA. He worked there for about 7 years, developing courses, mentoring hundreds of different artists. And that kind of led him into his current passion as a life coach. So since then, he's worked with hundreds of different artists, helping them deal with different issues in their career, mental issues, life issues, and now is in the process of pivoting more into men's coaching, helping men redefine their masculinity, feel into what their purpose is, how they can live in a way that's most aligned with themselves. So needless to say, Nik is somebody that I was really excited to talk to because, like me, he's someone who has a strong interest in both music and in self-development, and both have played a huge role in his life. So this conversation is full of gems. We really go deep into some topics like manifestation, creativity, and we kind of try to challenge some, widely stated assumptions about these topics and see if we can dig a little deeper in the service of truth, in the service of helping the listeners, you guys, to figure out what it is that you really want and how to best achieve that for yourself. So Nik is a really wise dude. I think you guys are going to get a lot out of this conversation. And without further ado, here is this episode of The Sacred Giggle with Nik Cherwink. You've had a pretty interesting and varied career thus far. You started out managing acts like Sullivan King and James Egbert. And then you were very notably an industry advisor at Icon Collective, which I definitely want to get into. And now you've transitioned fully into being a life coach. And I remember just, again, watching from afar, watching from the periphery, seeing that you were helping a lot of artists and things like that. But before our chat, I was on your page just doing a little research, and I saw that, in your description, it says, I help men become the authentic, confident, loving badasses they were born to be, which I love. That's a beautiful mission statement. And yeah, I kind of want to go back and sort of let you run with how you have reached that point, that very concise, clear mission statement that is in your Instagram bio now, from sort of where you started and where you traveled through Icon and all of that.
Well, thank you for the Instagram bio acknowledgement, because I literally just updated that this morning. I've been tweaking it a little bit here and there, really trying to be like, what's my thing now, today, like where I'm really, really at. So I appreciate you giving me some good feedback on that. But man, where this all really begins is I've kind of walked two paths at the same time. Right out of high school, went to a typical 4-year college, but like deep down, I always really wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a rock star. Like I was a drummer, I was in bands, like that was my real dream. But I kind of bought into the programming that you need to go to college to be successful. So coming out of college, I had a business degree and I also still had this passion for music. So I was like, oh, let's put those two things together and work in the music business, which is where part of the journey begins. But also right at that same time, right as I was graduating college, I also got introduced to personal development. I'd spent 4 years in college, pretty much hating everything, like not enjoying any of the stuff I was learning. None of it seemed applicable, like learning freaking economics and the calculus and all this stuff. I was like, what does this have to do with life? This isn't benefiting me. But I, picked up my first personal development book and I was like, oh, wow, this makes sense. This is something I'm actually really interested in. And so then I totally became a bookworm and just soaking up as much knowledge as I could. So I was really walking these two paths at the same time. And my first real job was working at Capitol Records in Hollywood. And that was incredible. That opened up so many doors for me, really helped me launch my career. And at the same time, I was buying my first Tony Robbins programs and just soaking this stuff up and learning how to think different and applying these things to the way that I was showing up in the world, and unconsciously just sort of naturally became like the go-to life coach within the office. Like if somebody had a problem, if another assistant was having a bad day, they'd come to me and I'd take them behind closed doors and have a little conversation with them and help them have some transformation and then send them back into the wild to go live their day. So it was kind of like it was always there. Everything that I was learning, I always wanted to teach. And so fast forward, I got into management. I was managing acts, which is also, as much as you need to be good at, promoting artists and branding and marketing, you also have to be their therapist a little bit. You got to keep their head screwed on straight and help them, just stay in the mental game, which eventually I realized I'm like, that's the part I like. I don't really care about marketing. I'm not good at marketing. I'm actually not good at the business side. I'm good at the human side. And then working at Icon just helped me take that even further. The reason I kind of left everything behind to work at Icon was because they had created an environment where I could really walk both of those paths powerfully. So I was teaching music business, and this being a teacher is really what brought this whole new side of me out, where I actually got to get up in front of a classroom and teach them music business and teach them creativity, but also I'm teaching them the life skills and I'm teaching them the personal development stuff, and I'm teaching them all these things that I'm so passionate about that have helped me so much along the way. So that environment really allowed me to fulfill both of my passions at the same time. And eventually the passion for teaching and for coaching just grew more and more, because I realized I'm like, oh, this is an actual career. There's a thing called a life coach. I didn't even know what that was. But I had that calling in the back of my mind for a while. It was a good probably 4 or 5 years that idea was sort of burning in the back of my mind. And then while working at Icon, I eventually had students coming up to me asking me to be their mentor, which I'm not a music producer. I don't know shit about like production. I can't really be an official mentor, but they're like, no, I want you to mentor me on the life stuff. And so that's when I just took it as a sign. As much as I was sort of ignoring the calling for so long, finally the universe was like smacking me upside the head, being like, hey, people are literally asking you for help, so that was when I stepped into it. So it was about like 2 years that I was just kind of coaching on the side. Like I was still working at Icon full time, and then I'd take a couple people under my wing. And during that time, I went and got did a whole year long professional life coaching certification. So then I really started studying and getting into the actual like skill set, and got certified. And then that just started growing. It was like, okay, I pretty much had to choose between one or the other, and fully have been coaching now for 2.5 years.
Wow, that's such an inspiring story. And I was just, so many things that you were saying, I was like getting goosebumps and just thinking about the similarities and the kind of how similar it is to a lot of my path. And without turning this into, maybe I should hit you up privately for some coaching without turning this into a therapy session. But like the part that I kind of want to go back, I mean, there's a lot there that I want to talk about, but kind of want to go back to, the early on when you mentioned, I originally wanted to be a rock star and, I wanted to be a musician, this kind of thing. It's very interesting because kind of similar to you, I am right now fully pot committed to still being an artist. But it's funny because as I'm growing as a human being and I'm about to put out an album, but so much of the content that I put out has to do with self-development, and it's kind of like coaching content in a way, even though I'm presenting it as an artist. And I also had a similar thing last year where like a couple people that follow me just hit me up and asked me for if they could do coaching sessions with me. And I was like doing it on the side, very similar to you on the side of being an artist. And, I've been going through this very interesting sort of journey internally, if I can just go deep here, which is that trying to ascertain how much of my desire to be an artist and desire to be that guy who's up there on stage and, all these big dreams I have of like winning a Grammy or playing Coachella or like, all these big goals, how much of that is ego driven and how much of it is service driven versus, the feeling I get when I help someone or, when I do a podcast like this and somebody DMs me and says, hey, I listened to your conversation with Nick. It was so insightful. And this part that you guys talked about at this section was amazing. And like the feeling that gives me and how, your ego can also co-opt that too. Like that can easily get corrupted by ego as well. And yeah, I'm just curious for you. I mean, was that ever something that you kind of grappled with, whether it was early on, like when you wanted to be an artist, when you wanted to be a rock star, and then later on, being a coach and being in that position, like just talk about this sort of dichotomy between like doing something that's for yourself, because I think this is something a lot of artists really have to get honest with themselves about. And I've been trying to get honest with myself about, is like how much of this is like in service and like I'm a vessel for the music, and how much of this is really because there are some unresolved like mommy issues or daddy issues that I'm trying to get healed by the crowd, chanting my name.
I have to say, I'm so happy that you brought it there, because before getting on this podcast, I wasn't really sure like what is the topic and what's the message that I would really want to get across and have land with people, because I'm getting further and further away from the artist world and just like really being 100% in the coaching world, the personal development world. But I have coached personally one-on-one close to 100 artists. I've put in my like thousands of hours of working with artists and picking apart the challenges and seeing the similarities. And you hit the nail on the head of really the question that really has to be asked is, how much is my desire for success as an artist coming from needing some sort of external validation, coming from the ego? And this is the biggest thing that people come up against, because I would say 99% of it is fucking ego. Like straight up, yeah. Right? Like you want to be on stage because you want the attention and the feeling. And part of it, is the exhilaration. Right. I remember having a conversation with David Guetta one day, and he was like, man, he's like, there's no better feeling. Like there's no drug in the world that feels better than seeing 20,000 people jumping up and down to a song that you played. Like there for sure is a chemical high that you get from that. And I think if you're chasing that, it's like, you know what, cool. Like that's the adventure. It's like, that's like a snowboarder wanting to like climb the biggest mountain and like snowboard down it. There's this high and this adventure. And I think I get that. And I think that, people get a taste of that, but where is that fine line between also really wanting the validation? So much of what I like, when we really start picking it apart, when peeling the layers back, I love that, you said like how much of this actually stems from mommy issues, because I think if people are really honest that they didn't get, whether it was like not getting the love and the attention from your parents, or it was not getting the love and attention from your peers, but there's a part of you that feels like you are not whole and complete the way that you are. So you need to go do something exceptional to prove yourself of being worthy. And that's just some real shit that people really have to take a look in the mirror and like dig deep and really, really question that. Because the truth is, because I see so many people struggle where they're just like, they're trying to push a boulder up the hill. They want to be successful so bad, and it's so hard and it's so challenging. And it's like, yeah, the industry is tough. The industry is challenging. But if you're doing this because you love it, then you're waking up and making music every day because you fucking love it. And you're unattached to this being like, I'm clinging to this idea of fame and success, right? If there's any sort of clinging there, then it's like, it's going to be a really hard journey. And it's the people like, I got to know David Guetta really well when I worked at Capitol Records. I love using him as an example because he was like, he didn't get famous until he was like, in his 40s. He's just this crazy, kooky French guy who's just like, yo, I just love making music. And he wasn't even intentionally trying to create like he just started collabing with these hip hop artists or, pop artists and guys. Cause he was just like, I just think these guys are cool and their music is cool. And my music is cool. It was always about the music. And the natural consequence of that was success, as opposed to the goal being success and everything else being like manipulated and calculated, and all of it ultimately stemming from not feeling good enough the way that you are.
100%, man. It's so tricky because I feel like the ego is so sneaky that, somebody could hear everything you just said and be like, okay, so I just need to just focus on the music and wake up every day and make music because I love making music. But then deep down, it's like they're having that mindset because they're like, well, that's what will make me successful. It's like, it's just funny how like it goes so deep. And I think, for myself, making music, I've really done a lot of digging into like, why is it so cool to DJ? Like, yes, there's a rush for sure, but a lot of it is that ego. And I genuinely love making music, and I have goals. Like I have ambitions. There's something you posted a few things this year that I really liked. about, one of them was like about canceling your Netflix subscription. And there was another one that was like, what the fuck are you doing? And you're just like talking about with a really good, like hard yang masculine, like directional
slaps.
Yeah, little masculine bitch slaps, which I really, really enjoyed. And, calling social media as America's biggest drug problem. And I think all that stuff is so powerful. And it's so powerful as long as the person who's watching it and the ambitions that they have are coming from a healthy place. And I think that's where, just having that self-awareness can be so tricky, because I like to think of myself as an ambitious person. I have ambitious goals, and, I understand the value of matching my actions to my ambitions and really being honest with myself about, if this is where I say I want to be, am I really living in a way that's aligned with that? And, making the sacrifices necessary. But then at the same time, like, is that really my ambition, or was that put in my head by someone else, or society, or conditioned by someone else? And I'm even reading or listening on Audible to Will Smith and Mark Manson just released a book. Mark Manson was the ghost wrote it for Will Smith, and it's like all about Will Smith's life. And obviously, one of the biggest, most successful entertainers of all time. And in the book, he talks about how everything that he's done, like he can openly attribute all of his success to this deep desire to please, and just like to be loved, and like to entertain, because that was the way that he felt safe. And, I know for myself, like once you start getting into a lot of self-development stuff and healing modalities, and you start really digging deeper into the layers of why you are the way that you are, a lot of that can fall away. And I feel like it's just about finding that balance, like, have you thought about any sort of pointers for, people who are listening, in terms of how do you figure out like what level of ambition is truly mine? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. What level of ambition is truly mine? I think this is the thing, is to pay attention to what does the journey feel like? What does the process feel like? Because I can't tell you how many people I've come across, how many artists I've come across where it's like the journey is really hard. And it's like I said, it's like pushing a boulder uphill, and they're just bashing their heads against the wall. And it's like the tortured artist, and it's like, okay, pay attention to that. If that's what your experience is, then let's start there, because then that's an obvious sign. Your ambition is attached to this idea of success, right? To that you feel like you have to be sort of successful. So it's like, if that's what your experience is like, there is some deep misalignment. Now, it doesn't mean that this isn't the thing that you should be doing. It's just about how are you doing it? Where are you coming from when you do it? Because I think that this is really where the work needs to be done. If you think about somebody who feels empty and feels a void inside of them, so they think that if I get the right partner, if I could only find the right girlfriend or the right boyfriend, then I get the right partner, then I'm going to feel full. Then I am complete. Right. This whole idea, like, oh, you complete me, like, okay, now I'm full. Now the problem is, man, you're still empty. That person isn't actually filling you. Now you have two people that are half full trying to fill each other up. And that's why, like, most relationships, crumble. There's a lot of like, toxic relationships. It's not until we are actually whole and complete with who we are on a deep, deep internal level that now I'm so whole and complete, I'm overflowing. I'm living in a state of abundance, and I have something to give. Like I'm overflowing. Now I can really show up in a relationship, and I can really give myself to this person, and vice versa. That's where like a really healthy relationship is going to happen. And I think it's the same way. If there's this part of you where it's like, oh, I don't feel whole and complete the way that I am, so I need to go have some sort of accomplishment, some sort of thing outside of myself. And this isn't just artists. This is people that need to go be successful and make money, and then they'll be complete, right? There's all these things that we're chasing after. And so just like to pay attention first and foremost of like, how do you feel during the process? If you're feeling like shit, then something is off and something is wrong. And that's when you need to turn inward and look at what piece of myself do I need to integrate and to work on, and to like find that place inside of myself where I know I'm already good. Like no matter what happens, like I'm good. I'm a whole, complete, fulfilled person. I'm full of joy. I'm full of passion. I'm full of love. Like that is the essence of who I am. And if I can access that, well, man, imagine what it's like to make music from there, or to pursue being an artist from there. Like now you're actually overflowing. Now you're giving something to the journey, and you're doing it so differently than when you're trying to fill yourself from it.
Yeah. And I really want to stress what you said about paying attention to how you feel and really just double down on that concept that if you're consistently feeling like shit or you're consistently feeling drained of energy, then something needs to change. Either the thing that you're working on needs to change or the way that you're tying it to expectations needs to change. Everything I talk about in podcasts is all advice to myself first and foremost, but I think so many people can relate to or can benefit from this because I know that I'm not the only one who grew up, in an environment where, and my parents are amazing, love them to death, but, grew up in an environment where how often did I hear the words, life isn't easy and you got to work hard and, work and play were just inherently different things. And it was like, you work hard so then you can enjoy your life. I'm not saying that there's any objective untruth to that or any objective truth to what we're talking about, which is that you should enjoy the process. I think that the implications of why a person feels one way or the other go so much deeper, and it has a lot to do with your culture and your conditioning. I mean, my parents were like first generation immigrants from India. They had very different priorities. They were definitely out here like trying to survive and make it. And I have the luxury of even asking these deeper questions. So I'm grateful for that. But, I think that just unwinding, that's such a deep rooted, I know for me, it's taken a lot of work to even continue to unwind this deep rooted belief that I deserve to live a life that isn't filled with friction and tension and stress, where I'm constantly not breathing deeply and I'm constantly in the state of fight or flight. If I'm feeling that way, that doesn't mean that I'm working hard. That means that I'm like not working effectively, And I think that's such an important thing to double down on, because I think a lot of people have that kind of programming. And the first guest I actually ever had on the show, he's a singer by the name of Anson Seabra. I met him in a production course run by this guy, Sarek, aka Hyperbits, who's also been on the show, also lives in San Diego. And we were in this production class trying to make like EDM, like dance music. And Anson basically like stopped his whole dance project and just started writing songs, like these really acoustic, folky songs. And now he's like crushing it. I mean, he was just on like the Ellen show and all this crazy stuff. And he said something so powerful, which was, the moment I start to feel friction in my process is the moment that I know that like something's up, something's wrong. And so I just think so many people are raised with like the exact opposite belief, which is like, you won't get anywhere unless you can like handle the friction,
Yeah. Grind, work hard, push through. I think what it boils down to is it's not what you do, it's how you do it. One of the questions that really kept me up at night for a long time, and I think really drove me to get into coaching, especially with artists, was looking at how many artists, just super successful people that have checked all the boxes, they've crushed all their goals, they've got the money, they've got everything, they got the manager, they got the agent, they got the career, like they're killing it, and they are some of the most miserable fucking people you've ever met in your life. They're struggling. How many times do we hear stories of like, famous people killing themselves, super successful people killing themselves? So it's like, you have to look at that. You have to look at like, wait a minute, just accomplishing these things and getting there does not mean I'm going to be happy, right? Because I have certainly hung out with artists that have all the things that every up and coming artist wishes that they had and thinks that when they get it, life is going to be great and they're going to be happy. And they're just really miserable. I remember going through like McDonald's drive-through one time, and I swear to God, I met the happiest person I've ever met in my life. The person
Right.
working at McDonald's was like so stoked, and they infected me with joy. And I was just like, yo, that's what's up. That's what's up. It doesn't matter what you do, it's how you're doing it. So if your whole journey is about pushing and fighting and like if it feels like that, it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Because it's not, it's that's just about like where are you at internally? How are you, what kind of emotions are you addicted to? Right? Like if you're living in stress all the time and you're living in frustration all the time, it's because you've trained yourself to be addicted to emotions, or you believe in this idea, and that's just the way that it is, or that's the way that it has to be, or that it has to be a struggle. It has, it's like, yes, you do have to work hard, but also like that it can be fun too, right? It doesn't mean that, it has to be such a struggle all the time. And then the people that are really doing it, like, yeah, they're doing it a little bit more, some people have figured it out. They're doing it with grace, and they're doing it with ease, and they're doing it with flow. But man, it's like, dude, I see so many people that are so much happier because they've chosen to prioritize their happiness. That's an important piece of it.
Yeah, 100%. And the paradox is that, and I almost don't even want to say this because, again, it's like the ego could take this and just turn it into a strategy. But the paradox is that when you are in that state of flow and abundance, you're giving yourself the best chance anyway to receive the external benefits. Kind of like that David Guetta story that you shared, where he wasn't even thinking about the fame or anything. He just wanted to make dope music, and he was just doing what felt in integrity, in alignment with himself, and it led to all these things. And I think, maybe that's something we can touch on, because right now, as I'm sure you're aware, in the circles that we're both kind of in, this idea of manifestation is really popular and trending on social media. And there's all these different, I've seen like so many ads about like, do manifestation the right way. And, you hear like, it's not enough to just think the thoughts. You need to like feel how you're going to feel like when you have the thing that you want. And, I think it's all beautiful stuff. And I've firsthand have experienced the power of writing down goals and then, practicing how it's going to feel and then seeing those things come to fruition. So I definitely do think it quote unquote works. But again, it's like when I hear a story like David Guetta is the one that you told, it's interesting because I know for myself, oftentimes I've had a fear like, well, if I don't have clear goals, then I'm afraid that I won't have like a direction. And there's like a part of my like masculine side, we could call it, like the side of me that wants to have a clear direction and a clear vision for my future that I'm building, that feels like it's not being satisfied if I don't have a clear goal. And I think there's such a fine line between that and then getting so attached that it starts to become this like controlling friction process. Yeah, it's funny because I'm still, my birthday's in a couple of weeks on March 7th, and I always create this thing called a mind movie, which I borrowed from Joe Dispenza. It's basically like a vision board, but it's a movie version. So it's a slideshow, and you create all these like images of what you want your life to look like, and it's set to one of your favorite songs, and there's affirmations. The point is like you watch it every day, and I always create that on my birthday. So like the first couple months of the year, I always spend like doing some reflecting and figuring out what I want to build. And as I've been thinking about it, it's like, yeah, I have these big dreams, like, oh, I want to play at Coachella and all this stuff, but I'm really trying to be honest about, is watching this movie every day going to create more constriction in my present day-to-day moment, or more ease and freedom that is going to allow me to be in flow? And I think because it's very easy to kind of have a vision board and then get so attached to it that it's like you miss the whole point. And now you're coming from a place of scarcity.
Yeah, I've actually been really getting into Joe Dispenza lately. I really love his work. And I think an important part of manifestation, because I believe in it. It's like we're all doing it all the time, whether you're doing it consciously or not. You're manifesting all the problems in your life,
right?
Too.
Right.
Because that's oftentimes like what we're just unconsciously thinking about is like worst case scenarios. So yeah, bad shit starts to happen. I 100% believe in it and know it to be true. I love Joe Dispenza because he's kind of proving like the neuroscience behind how this actually really works. And I think where most people get it wrong with manifestation is you're thinking about all the things that you want. You're thinking about the material items you want to have, the accomplishments you want to have, you're thinking about, playing the festivals and all of that. And how much are people actually thinking about the type of person that they want to be? Right? Because that's where I go because I do practice like every morning, more so recently. Like I sit down and I meditate in the morning, and I think and I visualize, but I'm visualizing much less about the things I want to have, the things I want to do. And I'm just more so visualizing the person that I want to be. Because if I be that person who is happy, confident, productive, focused, disciplined, full of passion, full of love, full of joy, full of creativity, then what kind of results do you think I'm going to create? Right? I'm not even attached to what those look like. I know it's going to be some pretty cool shit. And the whole reason we want any of those things anyways, the whole reason you want to have the success or the achievement is because of the feeling that we think it's going to give us. It's going to give us a feeling of joy. It's going to give us a feeling of excitement. It's going to give us a feeling of accomplishment or confidence or worthiness. So it's like, why not just skip that whole step and focus on feeling those things right now and today? That's the piece I think that we oftentimes miss, where I'm just like, right now, I'm just really focusing on like, who do I want to be? Like, I really want to just show up as my best self, because then everything else will take care of itself.
Do you feel, Nick, like that is something that people kind of need to discover by first achieving some of the things that they thought were going to bring them that feeling? You know what I mean? Like, because I oftentimes, like, there's a really great Jim Carrey quote where he says, I wish everybody could become rich and famous and achieve all their dreams so that they could see that it's not what they're looking for, that's not the answer. And I sometimes wonder, it's like if I look back on the evidence of my life, yes, everything, every goal that I had that was like where the value was externalized, I was happy for like 5 seconds. And then then I was like, okay, like moving on, like I wanted to get 1 million streams on Spotify. Then I was like, now I need to get 10 million. Then I was like, oh, it's not about Spotify streams. It's about like touring. And, I'm sure that's just a hedonic treadmill that I'll be on forever if I'm keep externalizing the value. I wonder if people kind of need to go through that experience and to taste the dissatisfaction for themselves rather than being kind of like told by someone who's already sort of quote unquote been there in order to, make that mental switch.
I think some people do. I think that children are going to not listen to their parents and going to go learn the lessons on their own, the hard way, But I think that for some of us, I don't need to go get super famous, myself to have that experience, because I see other people killing themselves. I see other people being unhappy, and I see other people, like Jim Carrey, like talking about it, So it's like, okay, success leaves clues, as Tony Robbins says. So it's like, we don't have to learn all of these lessons the hard way. Other people have already walked down that path. And that's one of the best things that we can do is like, what's the point of listening to the podcast or reading the books or watching the videos if they're going to tell you exactly what to expect, and then you're not going to listen to it and have to go figure it out for yourself anyways. And as I say that, I'm sure there's some shit that I've heard 100 times that I'm still going against and figuring out on my own, I think, but I'm trying. I believe it is, I guess, especially if it's coming from somebody that you respect and that you trust, like hopefully you would take their advice and not have to go figure things out on your own. Like life is going to be a very long, slow process. I think that's the whole point of us sharing our insights and our wisdom along the way, is so like, hey, like, yeah, you don't need to go make the same mistakes that I did. Let me save you some time.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's very similar to what you said. I've been to a couple of Joe Dispenza's retreats, and one thing that he says all the time is exactly what you said. It's not about the accomplishments, it's about the person that you become along the way. And that's really what you're looking for in the first place. What is there something, Nick, that you right now feel like, not necessarily that you're struggling with, but kind of like an edge that you're coming up against? I'm just curious if you'd be willing to share with the people, like something that's an edge for you and how you're kind of navigating that.
I'll be very open and vulnerable and transparent, because I believe in that the edge for me, really in this current sort of stage of my life was, I actually just recently left my relationship. So having the courage to make a really tough decision and trust myself and trust my intuition and trust the feeling that I was feeling to leave and to kind of go on my, the next sort of stage of my hero's journey, and just trust this thing inside of me that was calling me to go in a different direction. That's where my edge is, And so, yeah, I'm like, I'm literally packing my bags, moving out to Austin in a few weeks. And that's definitely where my edge is right now, putting myself into a new place and just like, I preach about intuition and trusting yourself and like listening to that internal voice. And if I'm not embodying that, then, who am I to really like share that with people? Because up to this point, that's how I've lived my life. That's how I've walked this sort of crazy, interesting path that I've been on. I've just always listened to that voice. I think I've had a pretty deep connection to my intuition, even when it's telling you some shit that you don't want to hear. And your logical brain really wants to ignore it and really wants to stay where it's comfortable and stay with what's familiar. Yeah, I'm literally going through that right now. Just like a pretty big test of like, how much do I really believe in this shit? How much do I trust that voice?
Wow, man. Yeah, that sounds like, thank you for sharing, first of all. And it sounds like a deep practice for sure in terms of just to me, it's almost like an integration of masculine and feminine. It's like, holding the structure to really trust that intuitive part of yourself in this next journey. And I can definitely relate. I went through a really intense relationship, basically just like dissolving in front of my eyes against my wishes. I don't think it was against my higher self's wishes. I don't think anything is, but it was definitely against the small contracted version of myself's wishes. And I fought, I definitely fought a lot and had to keep learning the same lesson over and over again. But I can definitely look back and say so grateful, as is always the case, for that experience. And, like my whole album that's coming out in 2 weeks, it's called Chrysalis. I mean, if you follow the show, you probably are because you follow me on Spotify and Instagram. But the album name, Chrysalis, is the phase that a caterpillar goes through before it turns into a butterfly. And essentially it just dissolves into goo. Like it completely like dissolves into like an undifferentiated, like liquid version of itself in order to then become a butterfly. And I named my album that because all the music was written over the last 2 years while I was getting my heart thoroughly broken, and just so many, and then obviously COVID and all this stuff happening. There's just so much doubt. And I study Zen meditation, and one of my teachers has told me, great doubt, great awakening. Little doubt, little awakening. And I think that's just such a beautiful, simple way to kind of contextualize whatever it is that you're going through, whether it's Nick, what you're going through right now, or my story, or anybody out there who's listening who might be able to relate, and just realize, like, the more you feel like you don't know what the fuck is going on, the greater opportunity for something beautiful to happen. It's like more grist for the mill, so to speak. And that can be so hard to recognize in the moment because it's just so threatening to our sense of ourself. But what's more threatening is staying in a situation that is, no longer expanding you. I think that's the biggest kind of fear I think that we all have deep down. So
it's definitely igniting something inside of me, because I'm like, all right, I'm walking the fucking talk now. You know what I mean? It's like I can get up here and I can make some cute little Instagram posts about these nice theories and concepts and some shit I read in a book, but it's like, yo, watch me walk the fucking talk. Watch me walk the path, right? Because if you are playing small, or you are, staying in the comfort zone, addicted to the familiarity, like keeping yourself in some sort of a situation or environment that isn't serving the expansion of yourself, as you said, then it's like, you have one or two choices, like stay, and continue to like go through the cycle that you're going through, or do something really fucking scary and courageous and make some changes. I think that's where when you caught my like canceling Netflix posts and like, what the fuck are you doing scrolling? Like that was like the first week after the breakup, where I was just like, let's go, everybody wake the fuck up, Honestly, it's like that fire is still there, because I see how many of us are just like, we're wasting this gift, we're wasting this gift of life that we have that is so short and so precious. And it's just fear, just fear keeps us in the comfort zone. We're scared to like take those chances or to go after the things that we really, really want to be going after. And that's kind of where I'm making my shift and my pivot, because I actually like working with artists was super fun, but it's like you're already going after your dream. So I'm like, okay, it becomes a little bit more of like maintenance, rather than the part that excites me is when somebody like jumps off the cliff. Like that's the shit that I'm like, yes, let's go. And I think there's so many, I'm shifting to working, specifically with guys. And I think that, part of our masculine energy is being connected to a mission. And so many people are just going through this sort of rat race of life without any real, like knowing deep down that there's something different that they want to be doing, but they're just too scared to take that jump, And so I love being the spark and the catalyst to like help people take that jump and like really start to go after what they want to do. Like that's what lights me up.
100%. And there's this, it's so ironic because why do men, I mean, people, but let's just say, we'll use men while we're on the thread. Like, why do men stay in situations that they know are not fully in alignment with them and suffer this quiet, slow death of resentment and just knowing that they're not in accord with themselves? Because they probably feel like that situation is going to give them some sort of sense of security, or they feel like, well, I can be confident in this situation because it's my comfort zone. The irony is that when you fully let those plates fall that aren't serving you and step out into the unknown, you get this like crazy, like that's like that not giving a fuck energy that everybody like truly wants. It's like there's like the fake version of not giving a fuck where like you're pretending to be irreverent almost like in a forced way because deep down like you actually just want people to pay attention to you. I think artists are masters at this. There's like so many famous celebrities that we can point to like that do this. And then there's like the deep down not giving a fuck, which is actually really giving a fuck, but just about the right things and not letting any of the other things deter you from that thing. And I think that's the energy that I certainly felt in those posts that you made. Yeah, I know that for myself too. Like when you really just allow yourself to step into accord with yourself and just kind of not worry about what the rest of the world is going to think, it gives you that deep alignment and sense of purpose and mission that I think are the masculine side of all of us, man or woman, is deeply craving, you know? And I also just want to add also that sense of adventure that you're talking about, it can take many forms. Like, and the comfort zone can take many forms. Like typically when we think of a comfort zone, we think of like, oh, you know, you're staying in the same town and then the sense of adventure maybe is like moving somewhere new or going out to new events or making a new friend group. And that can be the case, but depending on what your goals are, you know, and what kind of person you are and what sort of you've habituated yourself to, maybe your comfort zone is that you're always out and about. You're always meeting new people. You're always being social and you don't have any discipline to sit down in your room by yourself and just do the thing that you know you need to be doing, whether that's making music, whether that's writing your book or creating a coaching program that you want to create, or just fucking sitting with yourself and doing nothing to give yourself some time and grace for some deeper wisdom to show up. And I think, you know, that's something that I've definitely been dealing with here in Tulum. It's there's so many distractions. Every day there's a party. And as a DJ, like there's a part of me that's like, I see all these gigs and I'm like, oh, I could be playing all these gigs. I'm getting FOMO. But deep down, I know like right now, it's like the best use of my life is creating art. And like maybe that will change, you know, but like at least right now, that's the best use of my time. And it's like, it takes a lot of discipline. I don't want to say it's hard because again, then we're using this kind of like friction kind of language, but I think it just takes a lot of self-love ultimately, like loyalty to yourself and your sense of being in accord to stick with that and really give a fuck about the things that matter.
Yeah, I really love that perspective because I think what it's all about is there's certain parts of ourself, like we have so much greatness inside of us, but there's certain parts of ourself that just don't get activated. When we do the same thing all the time, then there's this other side of you that like you don't even know is there. You're just kind of living in the comfort zone. And maybe the comfort zone is you're going out all the time and you're going on adventures all the time. And so that just actually becomes what's familiar. And you don't actually access the inner genius that you have, which you can only discover by locking yourself in a room for a month and writing an album or a book, right? And vice versa. It's like if somebody that's never left the familiarity of their town or their community, it's like, you don't really know what you're made of yet, because if you were to just pick up and move across the world or something, there's a part of you that's going to get activated that you don't even know is there. So it's all about just like putting yourself into new and challenging and uncomfortable situations. Like that's, I think, the name of the game, you know. And this is one of the biggest things I see artists struggle with. And if anybody takes away anything from this conversation, if you're an artist, one of the most important things that you have to do is change, like live your life. Because I see everyone gets so focused on their goal and wanting to become successful, so they arrange their life to just be like in the studio working on music as much as you can, making sacrifices, saying no. And you know, there's something to be said for that, but ultimately what happens is if all you do is stare at a laptop all day or just like continuously are working, you're also eventually draining the creative well. And so you do need to go have some life experiences. You need to go out. You need to have some friends. You need to have you go date some people, like go travel a little bit. Like those things are going to spark different inspiration and different parts of yourself that you can bring back into your creativity. Some people would argue it's like there is that locking yourself, going to a cabin in the woods and just like locking yourself, that can unlock a different level of creativity too. But one of the biggest things I've seen with my clients is that they just forget to live their fucking life. And so I'm just like, yo, go get out there and go do something fun, man. They're like, oh yeah, I'm allowed to have fun. I forgot about that.
Right. Like I'm a human first and then an artist second. Yeah, of course. I mean, 100%, man. Like the album I'm about to release is, I can unequivocally say, is my best work, not because it's like the best produced or because the kick is like the most bumping or whatever, just because like I actually had some shit to say this time around.
Yeah.
It's like, because I got my heart broken. Like I had some experience.
You got some heart, yeah.
Like, I had some stuff to express. And it's like, I think that like ultimately it's like, as an artist, what is your job? Like if you're trying to be a great sound designer, then like maybe that's different. But like if you're trying to be a great artist, at least the way I look at it is like, I'm here to be a vessel for some sort of emotional truth or higher truth, and like the way to do that is, yes, to master my craft and do the thing where I lock myself in the studio, but only once there's like actually something to transmit. Otherwise, like, I'm just making great, well-produced music that's kind of ultimately like kind of disposable, because it's lacking that human element.
Yeah. We love music because it makes us feel something. Right. And that's one of the goals, apparently for most artists, is they want to make people feel something. You're making something from your head and it's just a mental, intellectual process, then nobody's going to feel anything. It's not until you are feeling something. You have to make music with feeling. You have to be feeling something yourself. That comes from your heart. That comes from your soul. When you start making music from there, then it's going to translate and other people will feel something. But yeah, there's a lot of mental, the intellectual math and science, especially for producers. And it's math and science. Computers can write music, but to actually tap into that deeper part of somebody's soul and emotion, like you got to tap into your own soul and emotion first.
100%, man. So Nick, I know we're just about running up on time here. So I just want to ask you a final question that I ask all my guests, and kind of just, a stream of consciousness. First thing that comes to mind, don't need to think about it too hard. The question is, what makes you feel most free?
What makes me feel most free? Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing that comes to mind is I'm thinking like physically. I'm thinking of like movement. I don't know, like the wind blowing through my hair. I think I feel free when I'm outside or when I'm moving. We spend so much of our life sitting down and kind of hunched over and trapped inside this little box, whether it's an office or whether it's an apartment. It's like how much time are we spending, inside not moving? So for me, what comes up just instinctively as you talk about freedom, it's like, yeah, it's moving my body, being outside. That's it for me.
Love that, man. Thank you so much, Nick, for the time. This is such a good convo. I definitely would love to have you back on again for round 2 at some point. And where can the people find out more about you? Anything else you want to share? Anything you're working on that you want to let people know about?
Yeah. I'm making a really, I think, kind of big transition and like a rebrand right now of moving sort of from specifically the artist stuff to really getting into men's coaching. Because so many times I have artists come to me wanting to work on their project or their career, but then we just go to such a deeper place, especially with the guys, where we just really get into these deeper truths about masculinity and just our relationship with our fathers and how we show up as nice guys. And that's what's really lighting me up right now. And I'm also just seeing such a transformation with the people that I'm working with. So I think especially for the guys that are out there that really want to just like own their voice, own their power, be more authentic, have more confidence, like really step into, the man that you were born to be definitely reach out and connect. Instagram is really the best way. Just Nik Cherwink on Instagram. And my door is always open. So just always happy to connect with anybody.
Amazing. And yeah, that's so beautiful, man. And I'm happy that you brought that up. I know we sort of touched on it here and there in the chat, and I'm really excited about where that journey takes you in this kind of new lane for coaching. I know I didn't mention this to you, but I actually did a lot of men's work back in the day, and even did some coaching, like dating coaching and things like that on the side when I was younger. And I remember, always feeling like my relationship to the feminine, whether that's the feminine in the form of an embodied woman or just feminine energy, was always a mirror of my relationship to the world. And so I just bring that up because, for anyone who's listening, because a lot of artists and creative people listen to the show, maybe it doesn't immediately feel obvious, like, oh, this is something that I could work on, or maybe I have some blind spots here because, maybe you're in a relationship or you just never thought about it that way. But I would encourage you to just think a little deeply about how your masculine energy comes out, not just in relationship, but in other ways, and how that does actually tie in, because it is all so related. And maybe that's kind of where this transition has been coming to life for you as well, Nik. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And guys, definitely go check out Nik. He's an amazing dude, really, really powerful creator, and just so excited for everything that's coming up for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I really appreciate you having me on. And anytime, I'm always down to jump into another conversation. So keep up the great work with everything that you're doing. And let's definitely stay in touch.
Thanks, brother. Take care. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Sacred Giggle podcast with Nik Cherwink. Be sure to check out the show notes to follow Nik on all of his socials and stay up to date with everything that he's up to. And if you've been enjoying the Sacred Giggle podcast, if you liked this conversation and you want to be notified of new episodes, then be sure to follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're using to listen to this right now. And if you've really been enjoying the show, it would mean the world to me if you can leave us a review. The more 5-star reviews that we get, the better this podcast does in the rankings, and the more we can get this out to more people in the world who it would provide value to. So thank you so much again for your support, and I'll see you next week. Peace.